My name's Judy Rees. I'm the co-author of Clean Language, Revealing Metaphors and Opening Minds. In this video, I'm going to talk about spotting metaphors. How do you know when you've heard or seen a metaphor? Well, a metaphor simply describes one kind of thing in terms of another kind of thing. It includes things like similes, analogies, parables, stories. Any example of where one kind of thing is described in terms of another kind of thing, that's a metaphor. And they're important in clean language, as we'll come back to in future videos. So how do you know when somebody is using a metaphor? Well, the easiest way is to notice the words "it's like" whatever they're going to say, or "it's as if" whatever it is. Those words flag up the fact that they're about to use a metaphor. But we're actually using many more metaphors than that. Something like 6 metaphors per minute, according to the research. So when I use a phrase like flag up, I'm not really waving a flag. I'm describing that process of marking out a metaphor as being like. I'm describing it in terms of a flag, waving a flag. Now, some of the best places to start noticing metaphors is the TV and the radio. Because on the TV and the radio, you don't have to pay attention to what's going on in your head. You don't have to pay attention to being polite to the other person. You just have to listen and notice what's being said. And in particular, on the news programme. Sport is a great place for listening out for metaphors. It's as if you can't talk seriously about sport without using metaphors all the time. Now, the joke metaphors that people use as examples of silly metaphors in sport are things like, "I was over the moon." So a person wasn't literally jumping over the moon, he was just happy at having scored a goal. "I was sick as a parrot." He wasn't literally being sick, he wasn't literally vomiting. He was unhappy at having not saved the goal. So they're describing those experiences of being happy or unhappy as being like being over the moon or like being sick. Similarly, in the finance section of the news programme, you can hear loads of metaphors. You'll hear about markets climbing. Markets don't literally climb, and markets don't literally fall. Now that's a very, very interesting set of metaphors that I'll probably come back to in a future video. I've certainly blogged about it on my blog site, which is xraylistening.com. Politics is another spectacular place for listening for metaphors. You almost can't hear a political speech without hearing an incisive, an interesting, curious kind of metaphor. And part of that is because politicians, unlike sports people and unlike financial experts, tend to be trained to use metaphor in rather an artificial way. So they'll come out with metaphors like the idea of, "we're going to put clear blue water between us and the opposition." And those have been very carefully considered, the metaphors that they're going to use. So what I'm suggesting is that first, notice metaphors in what people say. First, notice it on the TV and radio. Next, start to notice it in what people are saying around you, on public transport, for example, or in a meeting or a conference where your job is only to be there and listen. Once you've had lots of practice in noticing metaphors, then that's the time to start asking clean language questions about the metaphors they use. And that can be an incredibly powerful process. And again, we'll come back to why and more detail about how to do that in a future video.